Thank you, everyone, and thank you for being here, and I don't say that lightly. As you can all probably imagine, I have been redrafting my speech several times over the last couple of days. It needs to address what is happening now, but in many ways, what I want to say here today still delivers the message, the same message that I came to this conference to deliver. And this reflects the facts that the events of the past few days are in so many ways unprecedented and have changed political reality in Palestine and here in the UK. But in many ways, the fundamental truths, the root causes of what have happened are unchanged, as are the dynamics of what is required of us as solidarity activists, of you as members of the Labour Party, and of those in this room who are political leaders. Let me also start by saying this. As the leader of the largest Palestine solidarity organisation in Europe, with 15 trade unions affiliated at a national level, and as a Palestinian, I am very conscious, as you all will be, that we are more than ever in a moment and a political space where every word we utter will be scrutinised, filtered, measured, weighed and reframed. I know there are people in this room who have come here today for that sole purpose, notepads and phones at the ready. So if you will forgive me, today I am more concerned with precision and clarity than rhetorical flourishes, and I am going to read to you what I have to say. And I will also be repeating many of the messages that you have heard already, but I think perhaps this is a moment where more than ever, repetition of some fundamental facts and some fundamental truths is more necessary than ever. Let me begin by saying this. Every humanitarian will be appalled and horrified at the scenes we have been witnessing since the severe escalation of violence on October the 7th. International law must be the framework within which we judge acts of violence and their legitimacy. International law makes it clear that the deliberate killing of civilians, hostage-taking and collective punishments are war crimes. But international law also enshrines the right of a people to resist oppression and military occupation. Benjamin Netanyahu has declared that Israel is now at war with Palestinians. But the reality is that Israel has been waging a decades-long war enacted to enforce a system of occupation, apartheid and colonisation. The immediate context of the attack from Gaza is the intensification of violence by Israel since the election last year of the most far-right extremist government in its history, elected on a platform of proceeding with the effective annexation of the West Bank. From the beginning of 2023 up to October the 6th, the day before the offensive from Gaza began, Israeli forces had killed 240 Palestinians, including 45 children, the highest level of killing since the UN began to keep accurate records in 2005. Alongside these illegal killings, Palestinians in the West Bank have been subject to intensifying attacks by armed Israeli settlers, enabled and encouraged by Israeli forces. In 1 week alone, earlier this year, 17 Palestinian villages were attacked, homes set ablaze, civilians killed or severely maimed. Beyond this immediate context, as Jana reminded us, Gaza, with a population of over 2 million, of whom 50% are children, has been subject to an Israeli-imposed blockade for the last 16 years in absolute defiance of international law. And beyond all of that, is the fundamental reality, the root cause that sees the majority of the Palestinian people living in exile, those expelled from their homes in 1948 and their descendants, including all of my extended family, in the Nakba, and since then denied their fundamental right of return. So now we wait for what is to come. On October the 8th, the Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant declared, "I have ordered a complete siege on the Gaza Strip. There will be no electricity, no food, no fuel, everything is closed." He justified this by saying Israel was dealing with human animals. Benjamin Netanyahu called on civilians to leave Gaza as Israeli forces intend to turn it into a deserted island, indicating we will target each and every corner of the Strip. Now, knowing that Israel will not allow the people of Gaza to leave, this can only be interpreted as a declaration of the intent to slaughter thousands of innocent civilians. I heard on Newsnight last night, some of you may have watched it, and a US political commentator suggesting that he was calculating, he was envisaging 10 to 20,000 deaths in Gaza over the next few weeks. 187,000 people in Gaza have already been displaced in the past 2 days. So this is what is coming. This is what will be played out in front of us in the next few weeks. You know that. I know that. And above everything else, Palestinians in Gaza, across historic Palestine and in exile know that. Palestinians are getting ready again to bury and mourn their mothers and fathers, their brothers and sisters, their sons and daughters. So it is in this context that we must measure the response of Britain's political leaders, including the leaders of this party. Those who rush to condemn the violence of Palestinians have no moral foundation on which to do that, whilst they support the maintenance of the system of apartheid that is the root cause of violence. John told us we need to choose our words and actions carefully. So please consider the message that the UK Prime Minister and the Mayor of London give to the world when they emblazon public buildings in London with the flag of Israel. Given the context I have just outlined, this cannot be read as a statement of empathy and support for civilian victims of violence, because that should be extended to all civilians who have been killed in the past few days and will be killed in the coming weeks. It can only be interpreted as an endorsement of an ongoing military occupation, support for human rights violations, and as a green light for the Israeli government to proceed with intended war crimes. Statements of respect for international law and human rights only carry weight if they are applied universally. You cannot fly the flag of Ukraine as a manifestation of solidarity with the legitimate resistance of Ukrainians under international law against military occupation, whilst at the same time pledging unwavering political support and selling arms to a state that has been enacting a military occupation for decades and is now publicly declaring again its intention to commit war crimes. So let me conclude by saying this. Those of us who truly care about human rights, who truly believe in the implementation of international law, will reassert our opposition to violations of it, no matter who perpetrates them. But we will also recognise and assert loudly the truths that we came to this conference to assert, that violence will never end until you deal with its root causes. And that means apartheid must be dismantled. And our role in achieving that remains what Salah said to us, to work to end the complicit support of that system of oppression of our government, our public bodies, our companies and our corporations. So recognising those truths, and on that foundation, we will continue to stand proudly and loudly in full solidarity with the Palestinian people. As members of the Labour Party, I know that you will do so because you hold firm to the belief that the Labour Party is a moral cause or it is nothing. Because you understand the principles of internationalism that are the beating heart of the Labour movement and explain why we at PSC have so many trade union affiliates, to stand always with the oppressed and never with the oppressor. Let us be inspired by the words of the UN Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese, who reminded us all last week that the arc of history is long, that it bends towards progress, but that it only does so if we all collectively place our weight upon it. She said this: history honours those who fight against oppression, who stand up for what is right, as it honours those who stood strong against South African apartheid. As for those who are silent and complicit in supporting the maintenance of apartheid, well, they will be forgotten. And be inspired, finally, by the endurance and strength of the Palestinian people, who are facing again a dark hour in their enduring struggle for liberation, but who will endure, who will prevail, who will break the chains of their prison. Let us continue collectively to work together towards the day when all of the violence is ended and when we can stand shoulder to shoulder with them as the sun rises over a free Palestine. Thank you.